It always starts the same. You wake up in the middle of nowhere and you just get to work, punching trees, gathering stone, and building a base before nighttime. Every survival game gives you that same feeling, progress that you can see, effort that matters right away. But the more I've played, the more I've realised that survival games aren't really about surviving, they're about purpose, friendship, challenges, and that excitement of starting a new world. There's something special about those first few hours in a survival game, when everything's new and every step you take feels like progress. Whether it's throwing together your first base or crafting your first tools, every action feels like it matters. One of the first survival games that comes to mind is Don't Starve. What I remember most is how punishing it felt. There were hunger and sanity bars, and they always seemed to need managing. I really wanted to explore the world, but I kept having to deal with the survival mechanics before I could. It was this game that taught me I don't actually enjoy survival mechanics for the sake of survival. What hooks me is the game's world, and the idea of building something that feels like mine, and exploring beyond it. Although Don't Starve ended up having a co-op version, it just didn't hook me in the way that I was looking for. Minecraft was different. I first played it at a friend's flat while I was in college. I still remember that cold living room, drinking vodka out of one of his mugs, and going outside for smoke breaks, while I built myself a cobblestone castle. I was playing on a hastily built PC so we could both play at the same time, and my friend was hosting the world on his PC. Our LAN setup made the world feel more private, like it was only ours to play. And from the beginning, there was the expectation that we were building this together. We weren't doing it alone. And outside that flat, it felt like Minecraft was everywhere. Everyone was talking about the game, and YouTube was full of it. I still remember watching the Yogscast series, Shadow of Israfel. At the time, I didn't realise how scripted it was, because Minecraft was so new. I later watched the Jaffa Factory series, and I got so into it, I ended up going out and buying Jaffa cakes. At some point, there was a character called Old Peculiar too, and I ended up going to my local shop, and I ended up getting myself a bottle. It turns out I'm easily influenced by the things I care about. That time in gaming made Minecraft feel huge, and far greater than just the private server running on my friend's PC. Around the same time, I started playing Terraria, which became one of my most played games on Steam. It felt fresh, totally different to what Minecraft offered, and again, had its own following on YouTube. I remember watching Jesse Cox and Total Biscuit play through the game together. I loved building underground bases, which I had been inspired to do by Minecraft. And me and my friends ended up creating our own Hellevator, a giant shaft that took you straight to the bottom of the game's world. The 2D perspective meant that I could see the tunnels and rooms that I dug out even while I was on the surface. It made my progress feel visible in a way that most other games don't. Every tunnel I dug was a reminder of the time that I'd spent in the game. The simple graphics of Terraria never bothered me. What mattered to me was that sense of agency and discovery. But there is another pattern too. Over time, a lot of newer survival games started to feel too similar to what I'd already played. Enshrouded just didn't grab me, and Palworld had a massive hype behind it. But after trying Conan not long before, the whole capture workers or pals and set them to work system just didn't feel new enough to hook me. To me, it was essentially the same game, but with a different skin. And when survival mechanics get in the way of the fun, they turn into chores. What really matters to me is creativity and novelty. The feeling that I'm building something interesting in a world that I want to explore. Maybe that's why those first impressions with Minecraft and Terraria were so strong. It wasn't purely about the progress or the survival mechanics. It was about making something with my friends. These games never started as a solo experience. The expectation from the start was co-op. The real joy wasn't in what I built, it was in who I built with. Those games showed me something that I didn't know at the time, but I wasn't chasing survival. I was chasing a sense of purpose. 7 Days to Die is a game that I've owned for years, but when I played through it recently, the best moments were when me and my 3 friends slowly worked our way through a massive building, completely undergeared, low on health, and no idea what was around the next corner. That is when the game really shined, when we had to rely on each other or risk being overwhelmed by zombies. Like when we're halfway through an underground bunker with irradiated zombies running at us, and I realise that I'm low on ammo.
I'm back outside.
Playing it solo, I let myself get carried away with efficiency. How fast can I complete quests? How much loot can I fit in my inventory? And quickly the fun was replaced with a mission. When I played it alone, I played to finish. I felt like I had to progress or the game just wasn't fun anymore. I let playing alone become a checklist, but playing together is what made it a memory. Project Zomboid gave me a similar feeling. Even though it looks and plays completely differently, it's an isometric zombie survival game full of clunky menus. But when I played it with friends, it's the closest I've ever been to experiencing what the show The Walking Dead felt like. Clearing out houses together, sneaking slowly through built-up areas, scared of making any noise or risk attracting a zombie horde. Project Zomboid is a prime example that survival gaming isn't about the graphics. It's about those people on the server with you. Some games, like Raft, I would just never play on my own. The game only appealed to me as a co-op experience. You work together to find materials that can expand your raft, search for resources on islands, and slowly watch your floating piece of wood become a home. But even then, the raft may have gotten bigger, but my interest didn't. And ultimately the game just didn't hold my attention for very long. But Sons of the Forest was different. It was more story-focused, which gave me and my friends a goal to work towards. And like other survival games, sharing out tasks to help build our base is where I felt the most joy. One friend collecting stone, another collecting logs, and together we were working to build our home. I feel that this is what survival games are secretly teaching you without you realising, and that's how to delegate. And no game expressed that to me more than Factorio. In Factorio, delegation is key. You go from doing everything by your own hand to having machines do it for you. Then entire production lines can run without you having to do anything. And suddenly the fun of the game becomes getting the systems to take care of themselves. This is when survival games stop being about what you can do for yourself, and it becomes about what you can build together. Some of the most fun that I had in Sons of the Forest is when me and my friends went into a cave unprepared. We had no idea what was around each corner, and seemingly undergeared for what was ahead of us. It was actually challenging.
I hear something horrible.
Just like those big buildings in 7 Days to Die, it was that very challenge and overcoming it together that made the game worth playing. Valheim hooked me so hard that I would log in before my friends did just to collect extra wood, so our co-op sessions could focus more on the fun stuff. Building. Valheim quickly overtook my playtime records that Terraria held, and it is the survival game that I've returned to the most, besides Minecraft. The truth is though, we weren't always literally working together. Sometimes we would all be building our own individual buildings, or someone was out exploring, but we were all in the same world, chatting over Discord. That's all it took to keep us hooked on the game, just knowing that other people were in the same world. Valheim was one of those special survival games that made me want to wake up early so I could keep progressing the world. But Valheim also showed me how fleeting that feeling can be. For a long time, I hosted the world on my PC. I would even leave my PC running while I wasn't there, just so my friends could carry on playing. But eventually, I began to feel burnt out on Valheim, and I passed over the world save so my friends could continue. I would continue to log in occasionally, but the more that they progressed without me online, the more I began to feel distant from the game. They ended up building a castle on top of a mountain. It did look incredible. Hours of collecting core wood and working together, and they had produced an epic looking place to call home. But the game began to feel empty to me. The world just wasn't mine anymore. I felt like I had missed out on all the progress, and suddenly I didn't want to play Valheim at all anymore. And that right there is the truth about co-op survival. It's not so much about the monsters that you defeat or the bases that you end up building, but it's about who you did those things with. When I remember Valheim, I'm remembering the time I spent with my friends on Discord, working together. It's the same reason I still remember sitting in a van with my friends at 4 a.m, waiting for a ferry to Ireland after staying up all night. At the time, I just felt exhausted. But now, years later, what I remember isn't the tiredness. It's the stupid conversations and brushing my teeth in the back of the van. And it's that feeling that we were all suffering together. Because I think that can be a rare feeling in modern life, and survival games at their best can give you that. If you have been enjoying this video, please consider joining our Discord. Our community is slowly growing, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. The link's down below. But what happens when the friends aren't there? Some survival games feel like they become a chore. Others turn that isolation into something powerful. But that all depends on how the game treats your time alone. When I think of solo survival games, Subnautica is the one that comes to mind. What's funny is I almost skipped it entirely. When I first saw it, I thought it looked cheap, like some random Unity project with bubbly menu text, and I chose to ignore it for years. But that first impression ended up being fitting, because the entire game is about underestimating what's beneath the surface. The moment I finally decided to give the game a real chance, it was different from any other survival game I'd played. A lot of survival games punish you with meters like hunger and thirst. Subnautica had them too, but I turned the hunger bar off almost immediately, and the game was better for it. Because what Subnautica gave me wasn't chores, it was a real sense of wonder. My first dives in Subnautica hooked me on the game. The music, the colours, it worked in tandem to make the coral reef feel amazing. I was also constantly aware of my oxygen running low. But the game also had silence. In those moments of quiet, I could hear distant groans of creatures, and quickly I began to feel very small and completely alone. Subnautica plays with that loneliness in subtle ways. Every so often, I'd get a radio message, a hint that someone else might be alive. I'd rush out to the location, only to find the same thing every time. A wrecked life pod, torn apart and abandoned. I was alone. The game would tease that someone might be around the corner at the next radio message, but it was always empty. I built my first base in the coral reef, the safest, most vibrant part of the game. I even added windows just so I could watch the fish moving around outside. But inside the base, it felt lifeless. All I could hear was the hum of the base's life support. It was this very game that highlighted to me more than any other that I didn't want to manage survival mechanics. I don't want to have to cook endless food or watch meters drain. I want that feeling of discovery. That feeling that you're working towards something. By the end, I was hooked in a way that few games ever managed to hook me. I can only call it sesh mode. When I'd spend whole days playing non-stop in a relentless grind to reach the end. When I finally did finish the story of Subnautica, I didn't feel like replaying it. The journey of the game had been enough. Subnautica gave me the best solo survival experience I'd ever had. But it also showed me that these experiences can quickly turn to pressure and exhaustion. But maybe that's just me. Oxygen Not Included is another survival game that I've sunk many hours into, but it taught me something very different about playing alone. At first, I loved it. You start the game with a few duplicants, and you can command them to dig tunnels, conduct research, and expand your base. The first few hours were the best part. Every action that you take makes visible progress. I kept restarting the game as I was never happy with what I did. Things would end up going wrong, my duplicants would get stressed, and I would want to experience those first few hours all over again. When I had done this enough times and I just wanted to see the end of the game, I took to the Steam Workshop and installed a mod that made the duplicants run much faster. I also turned off the stress meters and turned down the hunger system. It made the game feel playable again. I was able to make tremendous progress, and I entered sesh mode. By the end of it, I didn't feel satisfied. The pursuit of progress had taken over the fun. I wasn't playing to enjoy the game anymore. I was playing to fix problems or stop future problems. And it began to feel like too much. I see this pattern in real life too. You might start something because it's fun, but slowly it becomes an obligation. I've seen this in many of my own pursuits, like skateboarding or powerlifting. It becomes a chase of efficiency and perfection, and through that process, the joy gets lost. Perhaps how you game is merely a reflection of your own mind, and this is a glaring look into how mine works. But for me, Oxygen Not Included was a reminder that the joy of starting new worlds on your own can be quickly overwritten with what feels like work, and the sense of wonder in the game disappears. Thinking back to Don't Starve, this game was probably the first lesson I had in this, but I didn't want to hear the message. The hunger meter was always draining, and even the characters themselves seemed designed to make me feel uneasy. Their voices sound like detuned horns, and the art style looked unsettling. I wanted to see more of the world, but the world harshly kept me in my place. I always ended up starving and being wiped out before I got anywhere. It wasn't dying that frustrated me, it was never getting anywhere. And the thing is, those systems are the game. It's right there in the title. Looking back now, I think I'd probably get further if I played it again. But at the time, it was just too punishing. It felt like too much of a grind without enough reward. In survival games, it's often not the monsters that kill the fun, it's the meters. Hunger, thirst, or fatigue, they're meant to make things feel real, but more often than not, they just get in the way. RuneScape Dragon Wilds was a perfect example of this. My character was constantly hungry and thirsty, and always tired. It felt like a constant hassle. I'd put my character to sleep, only to wake up hungry and thirsty again. What I really wanted to do was to build something, but the survival systems kept dragging me back. Some games handle this better, like Valheim for example. The game doesn't punish you for not eating. You won't starve to death. Instead, food gives you buffs. Berries can give you more stamina, while meat can give you more health. You can pick to eat based on what you're about to do, and that one little change makes all the difference. You can still enjoy long sessions of building and gathering without having to worry that your character is about to collapse. And when you do eat, it's because you want to. You want that bigger stamina bar, so it feels like a reward, not a chore. And it's not just food systems. In Raft, the shark constantly biting pieces off the raft didn't create tension for me. It just became annoying. I'd replace the broken planks and just get back to what I was doing in the first place. In Sons of the Forest, the problem wasn't the hunger, it was the combat. Constant attacks made building a base less fun. Then suddenly, the attacks just stopped, and the world felt dead. Or in Palworld, where I'd seen the hype and wanted to try it, but I'd just come off playing Conan Exiles. The novelty was gone before it had a chance to begin. And maybe that right there is the truth behind it all. I'm always chasing the next survival game that will really consume me, the way that some of the older games did. I don't remember which video it was, but Asmongold once said something along the lines of, "We're all just waiting for that one game to waste our lives on." And I always come back to this saying because I think he's right. I'm just looking for that world that I can lose myself in. Because real life already has enough of its own meters. Bills, food, sleep, stress. You don't need more of that in a game. And just like in games, those systems don't always feel meaningful. The pursuit of progress, whether it's mastering a flip trick on a skateboard or trying to perfect a daily routine, can slowly remove the joy out of the thing that you loved in the first place. Starting something new is always exciting, but sustaining it is harder. And survival games, like life, showed me that progress can start as fun, but quickly can feel like maintenance. But even when survival systems are done right, there is another problem. These games don't just end when you stop playing them, they remain there, frozen in time. And that's when you realise you can't step back into the magic twice. Loading into an old survival world feels like walking into a ghost town. The base might still be there, all the loot might still be stored away in the chests, but the people are gone. Every survival game I've ever played leaves behind these time capsules. At the time, each one feels like the most important world, In Minecraft, I've got a save from lockdown still sitting on a random hard drive, back when it was everything. The place that me and my friends would meet on a daily basis and work together. I liked to dig out secret bases, hidden behind waterfalls, and not tell anyone about it. I'd set up my own mine and store my loot in my underground barrel room. It would leave me feeling like I had done something cheeky, having my own space that my friends didn't know about. But now years have passed, the world feels like a walkable memory that you don't belong in. Like walking into a house you used to live in, but you don't anymore. Valheim hit me in the same way. I've played through it multiple times, and each world felt massive at the time. We'd build long bridges over rivers and spend hours making bases feel like home. We even had to haul metals across islands on boats just to keep those bases running. Every new base that we planned felt urgent, like it was our purpose in life. But now, those worlds are just sitting there. The fire may have gone out, but the rooms are still there. 7 Days to Die gave me the same feeling. We put so many hours into one world, completing numerous quests, stockpiling resources for future Horde nights. But if I loaded it up right now, I would feel sort of empty. The chests may still be full of resources, but it only mattered while we were in-game together. I could keep going, naming more and more games, but it's always the same feeling. And that's why when we return to a game we enjoyed in the past, it's always on a new world. Because once a survival world is over, the only way to feel that magic again is to start over. And with each of these worlds being time capsules, they remind us of different versions of ourselves. Who you were at the time you played, and who you were playing them with. And when you do finally come back to them, you're not feeling nostalgia for the world. You're feeling nostalgia for the person you used to be when you built it. You can't reload the past, but in survival games, you can always start a new world. And that's the real reason I keep coming back. Not to chase those old memories, but to make new ones. Every time we play a new survival game, it feels like getting the band back together. Friends I haven't talked to for ages suddenly become part of my life again. For a week or two, or maybe slightly longer, we're all there together, on Discord every night, delegating tasks and talking nonsense to each other. And suddenly, I'm back, making grand plans for this new world like it actually matters. Because for those few weeks, it really does. And although the world we are playing will eventually fade, those memories will still be there. Without survival games, I think my life would feel a little quieter. They create these temporary communities and become places that I want to belong in for a short time. But the truth is, every world dies eventually. The bases stop getting visited, the servers go quiet, until it just becomes another ghost town. But for those few weeks, it feels like everything. And maybe that's why I will always come back to survival games. Because survival games aren't really about surviving, they're about the friends we had with us. And while that may have been a bit of a cheesy ending, it's only because it's so true. Survival games really are that genre that I can always keep coming back to, and they always end up becoming that hub that me and my friends return to. And it really does bring out some friends from the woodworks, friends that I haven't talked to in a while, and we will reconnect for a time, even though it usually ends up only being a couple of weeks, and we will be back together creating stuff. And that's why I think I will never truly give up survival games. If you enjoyed this video, then click this playlist that's popped up now. It's filled with videos just like this one. And thank you so much to the Patreons. You all mean a lot to me and you're helping support the channel. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, then click that link down below. You'll be helping support the channel and the videos that I make here. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to me today, and I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you with the next video. Thanks for listening.